And welcome, everybody. Come on in and grab a seat at the bar. I'm your Photo Happy Hour bartender, Michael Mowbray. And today I'm serving up salted watermelon margaritas. Refreshing. I'll have the recipe for you later, so stay tuned. You have to listen to the entire podcast every single second, because it could happen at any time. Could happen anytime. You just
how about now?
You miss it. No, could happen now.
Oh.
No, not now. Anyway, joining me behind the bar are Carl Kaler and Dan Frievalt. Say hey, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
And a shout out to those of you who are watching on YouTube. If you have not mashed down on the subscribe button, please do so, because we would like to get that subscription rate up a little bit. You don't have to watch them every time you get a notification, but we just need subscribers because we want to be able to change our URL to something really cool and actually related to the podcast.
Don't cost nothing, just subscribe.
Don't cost nothing. Yeah, it's just like, and you feel like you did your good deed for the day. And if you're listening to the audio podcast where we have the bulk of our listeners, please subscribe on whatever podcast app you're using. So,
are you saying our listeners are overweight? Are they bulky? What? Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, bulky.
Bulky.
You know, that's what I imagined, because with like audio, you just have to imagine your audience, and I imagine them kind of bulky.
Nah, I think they're pretty fit.
They're
walking right now. They're walking right now, listening to us.
There you go. And if that's a good exercise. That's what I do. I listen to podcasts, take a stroller on the block, take a little break, close my circles. And the old Apple Watch.
Circles.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
okay.
an Apple Watch thing.
I thought it was
you
like
wouldn't know, Michael.
I'm gonna close my circles.
Michael, when it comes to fitness, Michael has no idea. So
I own a Fitbit. It just every once an hour it goes, maybe you should do something. And I just go, no.
How many calories did that burn?
I remember not this last New Year's, but I think the New Year's before, for like holiday bowl games and stuff like that. I'm just like, I'm going to see how low I can go on steps, and I think I made it the entire day like in 400 and some steps.
Ooh, that's not bad. Especially if you have to get stuff in the refrigerator,
Exactly. It's like, can you bring me something? I can't get off the couch. I'm trying to set a new record.
I'm going for a new record. Yes, a low-end record.
Low-end record. Lazy record. Doesn't mean just on a lazy day you're going to get 2,000 steps in. So 400 and something is pretty. That's actually something to aspire to.
Should we tell people what we're doing here?
This is what we're doing. We're talking about stuff. Now, we are three professional photographers who have been around for a while, and we like to get together, and we like to have what? Drinkies.
Drinky drinks.
We have drinky drinks, and when we have drinky drinks, we talk about photography, and we give lots of good information, lots of advice, in between a lot of other nonsense. So that's pretty much the podcast.
Thus the last few minutes.
That's a wrap, guys.
Good job. That's how we open every podcast. So most of the time, unless you want to be entertained, you can skip right to the 5-minute mark and call it good.
But you may miss some important information like cocktail recipes, special offers.
How to
getting
dry
up
your
to
pants,
date with whatever weirdness is happening to us. That's
Yes,
usually the first stuff. Yes.
So
So every week we try to have a topic, and this week's topic is camera settings, camera and flash settings. We're doing something kind of basic this week, and that's okay because we see these questions all the time.
All the time.
We see them in the forums all the time. We get asked these questions all the time. I get emails. Okay, by the way, guys, how many different ways can people get a hold of you? I gotta cut some of these off because email. I have multiple email addresses. I've got Facebook Messenger. I've got Instagram Messenger is getting bigger now. I have people text me. I have people call me. What am I forgetting?
Carrier pigeons.
Well,
mail.
I've got regular Facebook Messenger, and then I got the Messenger through the Facebook page.
Through the page, through the business
stuff
page.
Coming through the website. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. Which is why, if you're watching the YouTube, you saw me write some things down. And I was like, oh, I have to get back to someone on Facebook Messenger, because the problem with Facebook Messenger is when you read it, like the little notification goes away. I think you can go back and say unread. Well, I don't mind that they know they saw it. It's just then I get 5 more messages, and then it gets bumped down, and then I forget to go back to them. When email, you can kind of hit flag or whatever and kind of go back to it. So, yeah. So that's how I was just making. And there's an email I have to get back to as well.
Well, and with all that stuff, it's like, oh, I know Bob asked me a question. Where did he ask me this question? Was it on one of these, or was it in a group that I run, or is it a group I'm a member of?
Oh yes, it's
chaos.
Yeah. The one thing I do to try and keep it somewhat simple is automate messages. So on my Facebook business page, I have an automatic message that says, I don't check this messenger. Email here.
Oh, yes.
And you can set that up. I believe I've seen someone else set that up on Instagram as well, because me typing a response on Instagram, especially when someone's asking about a technical question. Yeah.
You should see me. I mean, because I'm getting like all these technical flash questions, and I'm on Messenger just going, I wonder if my thumbs hurt. Yeah. So anyway, we had a topic. Our topic is if you could pick an f-stop, any f-stop, what f-stop would you pick?
37.
There
42.
you go.
Wait. Oh, dang. I know
F64. I want everything in focus. No.
What was that Hanson always used to say? If it's not
Blue
F16,
17.
if it's not at least F16, it just doesn't matter.
Omaha.
Omaha.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, what was the one that Rogers was saying that one time? And everyone's like, wait, what? Muskrat? What?
No,
Muskrat.
it was New York Bozo. New York Bozo. That was okay. Let's keep going off on a tangent, but that was kind of the cool thing about not having fans in the stadium. You got to hear the audibles. Everything. And that what was it, a Sunday night or Monday night game with Carr from the Raiders. Oh, he was like rattling stuff, and then the defense is rattling, and then so then they're changing, they're going, they're exchanging back and forth, and it was like that was pretty cool.
All the stuff you never hear normally. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yellow Submarine. Well, I mean, I kind of facetiously said, if you could pick an f-stop, any f-stop, what f-stop would you pick? Actually, what f-stops do you guys tend to gravitate towards for depth?
It depends whether I'm inside or outside.
There you go.
I know it sounds weird.
No, it's same here.
In the studio, I'm usually at 5.6 because I'm doing more traditional things, and I want to make sure both eyes are in focus all the time, and it's more head and shoulder-ish kind of stuff for the most part, or full length. But when I'm outside, and I'm controlling the background inside too, as far as how far it's back behind him and everything like that. But and I painted out of focus to start with, so that's always helpful. Right. But when I'm outside, man, I love 2.8. I it's been a while since I've been above 3.2 photographing one person outside. I just like that background. I like that.
I will go. It depends on the lens too for me, but
yeah, absolutely.
I will go.
Yes.
I'll go 2.8 outside. If I want a little bit of an angle on the face, and if I've got them square to me, I'll drop down to f2. I rarely go to like 1.8 or anything below that personally, but that's just me.
Really? Oh man, I'm at 1.2, 1.4. I'm looking at lenses like 0.8. There's like this German lens, and so I'm not shooting outside. Yes, headshots and stuff, but I'm not too concerned about dropping an eye out of focus. In fact, there's one particular shot I do that sells every single time, and if it's the senior like sitting down leaning up against a wall and they look up at me, and it's I'm shooting in soft diffused light. I have my MoLight too, but basically that huge softbox is giving me 90% of the light, and I'm shooting right down at them at 85 1.2, and I mean,
sure.
The one eye is in focus.
Yep.
Yeah, the one, maybe two eyes are in focus. The rest, like their chin, everything just is blurred right out. And because their eyes are pointed up at that light, every color, every amount of color in their eye is just sparkling, and so the parents are always
Moms
like,
like that stuff.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And
They're not
your
saying
retouching is minimal.
Yeah, that's
blurred out except for the eyes.
Yeah,
that's true too. Yeah. And it's a very, no matter what your subject is, it's a pleasing shot because they're looking up at you as well. So the thing that's closest to the camera is their eyes, So everything else just softens and
fades away.
looks smaller, fades away. Yeah.
I need to send you guys because what that Sony 135 G Master looks like just at f2. Because I just did a senior, and f2 is with. I had ferns in front of her, ferns behind her. It's actually downtown Madison. There's a little park called Peace Park, but there's a bunch of ferns and stuff in there, so I kind of strategically had her in between. The bokeh is just like amazing, and I was even at like what is that? That's a 1.8 lens, I believe, if I remember correctly.
And dang it, no, I want that one too.
Oh,
Nice
it's
going,
my favorite
man.
lens ever. Seriously, I mean, we might drift off into this topic eventually, but my favorite lens ever is that Sony G Master 135. I mean, I use it for all the headshots. I'll use it unless I can't. If I can't back up far enough, then I'm like, okay, I'll put an 85 on, or I'll put a 55 on. I actually busted out a 35 the other day. For me, that's
that's
I
my
would
new
use
favorite.
that all the time for weddings, but for seniors, not so much.
Seniors. Oh, it's my new favorite lens. The 35
Is
1
it?
2, the Sigma. Is it the Sigma 1 2?
Yeah, that's what I
Art
have.
lens.
Sigma Art.
Yeah. Man, that thing is sweet. And it gives it like a natural vignette and just like, yeah. And which, you're breaking some rules, but, the posing and stuff, if it's done right, because there's not a lot of distortion on that lens either.
No.
What I've noticed. So you can break some rules because they don't look like a bobblehead or fat head, really. But yeah, I've been doing that, and what I like about it is still getting that shallow depth of field with a wide angle lens. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So
Seeing more of their environment, which is kind of cool sometimes.
Well, I busted it out
but the environment not being in focus, which is key, because then it just looks kind of amateurish. Yeah.
Yep. That's the key. That's the combination right there.
Well, I used to shoot a lot of wide, 24. For some for seniors, but a lot for brides, where I just, you lay on the ground and you get that really dramatic shot of the couple or just the bride with the sky or whatever behind. And I would shoot that most often with a 24 or sometimes a 35. But I just haven't done that much anymore. A, because I'm not shooting weddings. B, because I don't like to get down on the ground. Because
I was just envisioning that.
because the client's always like, do you need help?
Yes.
I'm like, it's not like I'm laying on my back like a turtle going, "Ah." It just takes me a little while because my knees hurt.
Well, and
I was photographed a senior yesterday that couldn't get up off the ground. I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but have you been photographing any of the football players in your area lately? They can't move. They gotta work on flexibility, man. I'm telling you.
Too much weight's not enough flexibility.
Yeah, I'm 52 years old, for God's sakes, and I got no problem getting up and down off the ground. But these guys are like, they sound like they're like 88 years old trying to sit on a chair. Gosh almighty, it's just people. What are you going to do in the field? You're going to tackle somebody. How are you going to get it back up?
Yeah, well, exactly.
The friends help them out.
That's a big part of football is actually hitting the ground. Yeah.
Jeez.
So coming back to f-stops, 5.6 for my headshots. Families, depends on how big the family is.
Hey, let's talk about that for a minute, because it's something that comes up in my class all the time. Well, what f-stop for your family? Well, it depends on how many people are in it and how deep it goes. I said, so rule of thumb I tell people all the time is don't look at rule of thumb, rule of little finger or whatever, I don't care. Just the rules. Go to the side set your camera on the tripod so that if you need to do head swaps, it's a lot easier because everything stayed the same. Rule number A. But then go to the side of the family, walk over there. Actually, just physically walk over and look and say, hey, are the people this close together or are they, 9 feet apart? Condense them. And it's so much easier to get people in focus, not only in focus, but their head size relationship a little bit more uniform as well. So look at it from the side and compress them as much as you can. And then longer lens help compress that more, and larger f-stops so you can get more depth of field to make sure everybody is sharp. So
right. And there are apps that are out there. If you're not sure, okay, this f-stop, what is my depth of focus? There are apps out there that have, and I'll put a link or something in the Facebook group to one of the ones I use. But you can plug in your actual camera and your actual lens, and it'll say that at f8 that you're in focus from 42 inches to 63 inches or something like that, depending on how far away you are.
Box on your lens, it'll actually say.
Yeah. Well, not all lenses have that, but yeah.
Yeah.
The box. I'm not carrying that with me.
Actually, it used to be on the lens.
Well, yeah.
To be able to look at and see, but
yeah.
At least a ballpark would be on the lens. Yeah.
Or you could take a shot,
ages,
zoom in and look at all the faces and kind of see
there you go.
Focus. If not,
that's kind of handy.
Because
there's this new thing called digital.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. What's that? Wait, what's it called?
So, okay, here's a quiz question, guys.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a 15-person family.
Yeah. Pop quiz.
It's
hot shot.
It's 5:47 in the evening in late September. Late September.
Right. Shoot the hostage.
At 6:38.
Shoot the dad.
That's right.
The private's going to lose it.
Shoot him in the fleshy part, and then they'll take out the kidnapper. Anyway, where are we going with this? Okay, so
Speed.
family of 15, late September,
yep.
And you're on a tripod.
Yes.
Those last two facts mean absolutely nothing. But anyway.
It actually can.
It can actually. It can. Okay. Mm-hmm. But where do you drop your focus point?
A third of the way through the family.
There you go.
Not only that, but another tip for all us shooting digital with your image stabilization lenses, make sure if you're on the tripod, shut that stabilization off.
Yep.
Good tip.
Because otherwise it's counterintuitive, or it's counterproductive
working
for
against
you.
it, yeah.
It's messing you up.
So let's explain that, because I'm sure there's quite a few people who say, what, wait, a third of the way through the family. What do you mean? You don't focus on the front person? You could, if your depth of field is far enough, if you focus on the front person. Yeah, long enough, far enough, deep enough. Everybody will fall in. But what people don't recognize and don't understand, and that's why I wanted to explain this, is that wherever your sharpest focus point is, or where your point of your focal plane is, there's stuff in front of that that's in focus, and stuff that's behind that that's in focus. However, explain it.
However, you have 2/3 and more in focus beyond that critical point compared to in front of it.
Exactly.
So
this is sounding
there's
awful
valuable
lot
information
like
we actually gave.
Yes, this is sounding awful.
I was
lot
thinking
like
that's why but I lost my straw.
So
and you also said this was basic.
Oh, wait, we forgot to tell people
this is
what we're
basic.
drinking.
Oh, we'll get there in a second. But I want to reiterate that, because I think that's a valuable thing we never see anybody talk about. And what Carl was just saying is that, wherever your focal plane is, where you're dropping your focal point, 1/3 of your in focus distance is in front of that plane, and 2/3 of your in focus distance is behind that plane. Does that make sense? Everybody nod? Everybody in podcast land nodding on that? Okay. So that's why you would want to focus about 1/3 into your group, 1/3 of the distance into the depth of your group to get your best focus place. Not if you're shooting at 1.8 necessarily, but
Then it won't matter.
right.
Yeah, don't worry.
But if you got a 15
that's
person,
like the middle of the nose instead of the.
right?
Yeah.
15 person group, I'm just going to go outside F8 maybe, or if I can get them to bunch in tighter, and so I don't need as much depth of field, and maybe I can get away with 5.6, or I can put them all in a line and take a yardstick across their noses and make sure that all their noses are touching the yardstick. That I can do.
When in doubt, focus on.
Well, actually,
2.8.
That's another good point, though. Actually, and that's something I tell people all the time too in my classes, that when you're doing big groups, families or teams or whatever, make sure you get as perpendicular to them as you can. In other words, if you're askew, hey, we used our word of the day, askew.
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 If you're
What's
if you're
askew with you?
if you're photographing that family from an angle, it's going to be again harder to keep everybody in focus and the same head sizes. And we'll get back to that in a minute too. But you try to get the middle of that team, that family, that grouping, straight perpendicular to you, so that that as they feather out, as they wing out from there, they stay uniform. That way, again, you're using the best possible situation to keep everybody in focus. And I keep saying about head sizes too. That's another thing people always ask. Well, what lens do you use for a big group? The longest lens I can is still be able to back up in a reasonable amount of time or space without having to yell at them with a blow or one of those air horns or whatever. But it's because, again, we're trying to compress.
Megaphone.
We want to make sure that everybody's head size stays somewhat consistent throughout. So you don't have, if you're a wide angle lens and you have a big family that has 4 rows, that front row, everyone's going to have great big heads on them, and everyone in the back is going to look like a pinhead. Well, that's no good either. So, like Michael was saying, he likes that 135. To me, a 135 is a beautiful family portrait lens, because it's a long enough focal length that it compresses and keeps the head sizes uniform, yet it still has a great look in the background, and you're not backing up so doggone far that you have to talk to them on the phone to give them instructions. So
Send them texts.
yeah.
So what if you had a
first to the
couple
left.
shot and you took an 800 millimeter lens and put, like the woman up front and the guy 5 feet behind her? What would happen?
Ooh. I'm
800
just going to call that
millimeter
art.
lens.
Creative.
It's
That's a creative
Dude's gonna
shot.
look-
It's creative.
Yeah. Weird.
Is
It's
that
kind of
the
like
one
watching
where
the camera.
the bride holds her hand and then the groom is like in her hand?
Yeah.
Well, what I mean, when we start talking about compressions, I always think of like if you ever watch baseball and you get the camera from the third base side, shooting into the left-handed batter, and it looks like the woman eating nachos in the stand, is like right behind him.
Wait, what's her name? On the Brewer games, the woman in the back,
Oh yeah.
in the red.
Yeah, I don't know what her name is, but yeah.
Debbie, wasn't it?
Was it Debbie?
Front row
I thought it was
Debbie or
Debbie.
something like that.
Yeah. But yes, I see what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. So what are we drinking tonight? I'm having a finger or two of Balvenie Doublewood with a piece of granite in it because it's a little warm here today.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I
It
thought it was
doesn't have a
coal.
nice ching kind of sound. Ching, 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 ching.
Clink, clink, clink.
It just stuck there. Yeah.
What you got there,
Well,
Dano?
I have wine because my mint plant is out of control, and I tried to do a good job of weeding it out with camping last weekend, but I still have a lot to go. But I had everything except for the wash to make mojitos, so that didn't work.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
having
pop some
blueberry
Chardonnay.
Moscow Muley because I followed the steps on the strawberry
Yes.
Moscow Mule that you had on the podcast
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, last week,
Yeah.
whenever it was.
2 weeks ago, I think.
But I did it with blueberries, so I made the simple syrup, and
Yeah.
I got Tito's vodka, and decided this tastes like crap. so then I asked some bartender people. I went to a source, and I said, "Hey, how do you guys make this?" They go with really, really, really good blueberry vodka, and that wasn't bad. And so I got that, but then now I combine it. So I got the simple syrup they made out of the blueberries, and the blueberry vodka, and now we're on to something. This is awesome.
Yeah, because it's all working together. It's the same way I use that lemon vodka with the lemonade just to make my simple vodka lemonade drinks, and it makes a difference.
And now it's a health drink because it has antioxidant blueberries in it. So.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I used the red, white, and blue Smirnoff vodka, which this weekend I was like, I don't think I can even taste this vodka, and I kept adding more and kept adding more and kept more. Finally, by the end of the night, I was like, I'm like, I can't. And I was like, oh yeah, now I can taste it.
It's kind of like Zaya rum. Zaya
too
rum.
much. Yeah.
Yes,
This stuff
exactly.
It has absolutely no effect on me. 2 minutes later,
It's just like this is just Coke. There's no rum in here, right?
it's just drinking it straight on the rocks. Oh man, that was the best up night.
And he can't find his room from the. Where were we again? The Osthoff or whatever.
The Osthoff Resort in Elkhart Lake.
Yes, fall convention.
Nice place. Nice place to
get lost.
Nice place to be drunk.
Can't find your way back to your room.
Multiple times, yeah.
Okay,
Anyway,
so do we have a sponsor
when
for
you guys,
today?
We probably should talk about that. Let's just take a real quick break, and we're going to hear a little something about Red Curl Creative.
Nice.
And we're back.
Good pause, guys. That was a good pause.
And by the way, just remember you can save $97 on the Write Better Words course from Red Curl Creative by using the code Happy Hour, HAPPYHOUR. In case you didn't know how to spell it, Happy Hour all together.
Wait a minute,
Boy, are we enthusiastic? HAPPYHOURE.
Oh wait.
No, there's an E in there. I threw you off.
Wait a minute. The E is silent. Hey, is this backwards to you guys, or like a mirror image, or no?
No, it reads correctly to me.
Oh, well, there you go. So here it is. If you're on, watching on YouTube, then you can actually see it right there.
If you want one of these T-shirts, you can get these at gomolight.com or MoLight.com. MOLIGHT. I'm spelling everything tonight. MOLIGHT.com. There we go. All right. So when you guys go out and you're photographing a senior, we end up talking about seniors a lot. We did talk about families, so that was nice diversion.
That was nice.
Yes. So you're out photographing a senior, and you set up your camera, and outside, what's your camera typically set to? What exposure settings? What focus settings? What?
I'm going to kind of like maybe ruffle some feathers here, but I used to shoot completely manual. Mm-hmm. But as the years have gone by, I've switched over. Yeah.
Oh,
aperture priority.
Carl, we've got you outnumbered. I'm almost exclusive aperture priority outside. Almost.
And I'll tell you why.
Been that for years.
Yeah.
Which, and then sometimes I get upset when people get like, oh, you're not professional if you're on P and all that stuff.
Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see my response to them. If you're listening to the podcast, you can just kind of guess.
Communication, man. Universal communication.
Well, and you know me, I'm pretty easygoing, so I'm like, whatever works for you, as long as you know what you're doing. And but the main reason is we spend all this money, we invest all this money on the cameras, right? The camera is a computer nowadays. Why not make it easy? Same thing with TTL. Like, why not make it easy on ourselves? As long as you understand what's going on. Like, even in aperture priority, I'm still kind of shooting in manual because if it's backlit, I'm adjusting, and stuff. But why mess with shutter speed when I know I want a shallow depth of field? I'm shooting one subject. Boom. Yeah. I've even just recently, and I'm still on the fence about this, but switched to auto ISO because I'll get rolling and I'll forget. And all of a sudden the sun's going down. And I'm like, oh, I'm still on ISO 100 and I could have some camera shake because the mosquitoes are biting me. We've been shooting for 3 hours. I'm sweaty. I like, oh, shoot, I forgot to up my ISO, So I've been playing with it. It still does some weird things. And the main reason I switched is because when I started shooting video, that was an option.
Oh,
And
right.
I knew it was an
A little
option
different
for,
ballgame, yeah.
yeah, I knew it was an option for stills forever, but I never liked how it worked. It felt like it was too high. But with grain and everything now, like you can shoot at like
1600, no problem.
1600. It's like 10,000 ISO.
Oh yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say, guys, I shot that fashion shoot I did 2 weeks ago or whatever in the studio. I shot some of the stuff at 1600 with the LEDs, with the Sony.
It
I'm
doesn't
like,
look any different than in
No.
100.
Yeah, it's
No.
the
I'm like-
technology. Yeah.
yeah.
And which brings me to my point where I'm going to justify, like, are you still shooting in manual focus? Because,
No. Yeah.
oh, that's manual. I
Yeah.
don't care if your camera comes with autofocus. I don't care if it comes with eye autofocus. If you're not shooting in manual, you're not a professional. Well, you know.
Are you still retouching your negatives?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean,
I remember when everyone gave our friend Jen Hillingay crap about, shooting TTL, or not TTL, but I mean aperture priority, shutter priority. And she was asking me one time, she said, well, do you think what I'm doing is wrong? I said, Jen, what you're doing is actually more hands-on than what most people are understanding. Because she understands what's going to happen given the exposure, given what's happening in each particular shot, just like you, Dan and Michael. Because you still need to compensate for different things because of what's going to happen in the background, whether it's light areas or dark areas, things like that. So you know that you're actually shooting manual anyhow. It's just using the camera to help the
Right.
math faster. is
Faster.
what it amounts
That's
to.
exactly it. Yeah,
That's
because
exactly-
I'm
So-
still eyeballing. I'm still eyeballing where the shutter speed's going. Do I care? To a certain extent, I don't really care what the shutter speed's at unless it's too low. Although I will eyeball it now, and if it's popping a little bit over 200 or 250, I'll make an adjustment if I need to drop my ISO down just so I don't kick into high speed sync, because I don't want to go into high speed sync unless I have to go into high speed sync.
Hey,
Right,
speaking of
right.
which, talking about settings.
Yeah.
So you guys are you're gonna laugh at me for this one. I actually, on Monday, was gonna use TTL,
What?
and then couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. Then I realized, oh shoot, that's right. I was shooting the 600 BM.
Yeah, that was
8600
crossing
BM.
my mind.
It's not. It doesn't have it.
Hard to get TTL of a flash that doesn't have TTL, Carl. I'm just saying.
Like, God darn it, why does this go on there? I'm just hitting the mode. And I'm
Just
like,
trying
oh
to, like-
wait, that's right. The
Like trying to put gas in a Tesla.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Where do
work.
we load this thing? Yeah. Oh well, but it all works. So it got me thinking about something else, and now I just lost track of where I was going to go with that. But shoot, it
Well,
was something really important
why-
that made sense at
oh.
the time.
While you're thinking of that, you made an excellent point. Is that we're shooting, like I'm shooting at least in a controlled environment. Later in the afternoon, I'm picking locations that are naturally good with, or are good with natural light to begin with, or even light. And even if the light isn't even, there's a hot spot back there. I'm going to change my angle to automatically compensate for that. So, and when I teach, I always explain that this is why. But if I was shooting high noon and there's hot spots and stuff, I mean, or backlit, and even when the sun goes down and I'm getting that glow, it still is pretty darn accurate with the Sony, at least. With the Canon, I used to have to adjust, overcompensate. The Sony's pretty doggone good with the TTL, with the MoLight. It's like, it looks awesome.
Get you in the ballpark pretty quick, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Well, even with high speed sync. Oh, that's where I was going with this. Your high speed sync. So I was actually remembering, because rule of just normal everything. I'm at 400 ISO, whatever you want to call it. Old people or new people or whatever.
ASA.
Yes.
But 400
back-
ISO.
Is
Take
that
a
it?
trip back
Because-
to 1989?
Exactly.
Is that the Amateur Softball Association? What is that?
Well, it could be. But because it doesn't matter. I mean, like you said, 1600 even, you don't see any grain in it compared to 100 or 50 or 400 or 200. It all looks the same to our eyes now. But it does make a difference for high-speed sync. Because now if you move down, if you're having a hard time say you want to photograph at f2.0, and that's you try to get the sky in focus. If you're going to have sky in your image, and you're at 2,000, 4,000, 6,000 of a second, well, your flash is working too doggone hard, and you can't get enough oomph out of it. Drop the ISO down. It's like it goes the opposite. So make sure your settings of your camera get that shutter speed down as low as you can, so that your strobe is able to play with it nicely.
They don't give any awards to people who shot portraits at 1/4000th of a second. I'm just saying, it's like you get a badge because you took this portrait at 4,000th of a second, and you did it at ISO 800. Because what I would give you, I'd give you the dumbass badge for that one.
Yeah,
because you could have dropped that
battery life.
You could have dropped that down to ISO 100 and saved your flash a lot of work. So and just to chase down that thought, just so people understand this, and we've talked about this a little bit before, when you go into high-speed sync, your flash has to work a lot harder and acts a lot differently. When you're under your what we call your standard X sync speed on most cameras, 200th of a second, 250th of a second, look it up. It's in your specs. Depends if it's a Canon, Nikon, Sony, whatever. But you typically don't want to go over that. But there are times you have to if you're out there in bright sun and you want to shoot f2.0 and to get a balanced exposure in the background, you might have to be at 2,000th of a second. The thing is, drop your ISO down as low as it'll go, because the quicker your shutter speed is, the harder your flash has to work, because instead of flashing once, it flashes about 30-some thousand times a second and acts like a continuous light source. So every time you get a quicker shutter speed and you cut that shutter speed in half, your flash has to work twice as hard. So at a certain point, you're going to run out of flash power. So I see people out there running around with speed lights going, I want to shoot 8,000th of a second. And I'm like, yeah, you want to hold that like right up to their nose, don't you?
Yeah.
And I know, because I've tested that stuff, and you got to be like right here. So, just a tip for you.
Yeah, and a side note, if you are shooting and you see a black line in your frame, you are exceeding your flash sync, or you're not on high-speed sync. So I see that question come up a lot. It's like, why is there this black bar on all my images? So
because it's showing your shutter.
showing your second curtain coming across.
Yeah.
So what you can do, what some people used to do, is they would flip their camera upside down and they'd use that to vignette the sky.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's go the other direction then. And Michael, you can explain this better than myself, but different flashes can also power down more. So for instance, I shoot in some areas of heavy trees, the creeks and stuff, where like even at 3 in the afternoon, it's really dark, and I want to drag the shutter to get some get the ambient so the background isn't dark. But then now my flash is throwing out too much power, unless I have like a 400 or something where I can actually dial it down and get just a little bit of light out. So yeah,
all the Godox Pro flashes. So the 200 Pro, actually the 100 Pro is a Pro, 100 Pro, 200 Pro, 300 Pro, 400 Pro, 600 Pro. They will all go down to 1/256th power. So that's really low in comparison. Your typical Alien B that a lot of people started with and are running around putting, plugging them into Vagabonds and carrying all that stuff around, I think they only go down to 16th power. So that's a big difference in terms of being able to power down.
I was going to ask you about that, by the way. Is 1/256th power the same output on the 600 as the 400, as the 100? Or is it based on that flash? Or is
it's based? Think of it this way. So say, for example, you've got the 600 that's 600 watt seconds. So 1/256th power is like 2.5 watt seconds of power. On the 400, 256 power is like 1.7 watt seconds.
So it is less.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
that was math again.
There was math. I know. I didn't want to go any further.
I finished
than
my
that, so.
drink on that one, guys.
You did. I saw you sucking it down. You found your straw. But yeah, I mean that's a good point, because I was running into that because most people I want as much power as possible. I want to overpower the sun, balance the sun, and the way I shoot, I want to have a range, a good range, and to me a 400 is perfect. For the 400 Pro is perfect because I can dial it down for when I'm shooting in the late afternoon, which I do a lot of. But yet, if I want to go and shoot at high noon, I have enough oomph to do that with a single person, a senior. So it's the perfect flash for me. On top of that, it's the perfect size and weight where it's not overwhelming for my assistant to carry.
Yeah, it kicks out a lot of power for a fairly small
My
size.
assistant, my other hand. Remember one hand.
I started using the 300 Pro this year. That's what I've been using outside, which is only a third stop less than the 400 Pro and 2 pounds lighter.
Yeah.
So I just did this measurement the other day, and the 400 Pro with the battery is like 5.5 pounds, and the 300 Pro with the battery is like 3.5 pounds, somewhere in there.
What does the 8200 weigh compared to that?
Less than that.
Okay.
Less than that.
I can tell you when we ship it with everything, it's like 4 pounds 7 ounces, including the box and the charger. So
well, that's my big issue with Godox is they always are coming out with cooler, better
New
things.
stuff.
I'm like, dang it, I want that now.
No, the 400. if the flash, I always told people if you could only buy one flash, it would be the 400.
400, without a
Just
question.
because that'll work great in the studio too, because it's got a strong modeling light in it, and it's got very fast recycle time because of the larger battery. Whereas the 300 Pro does not have that strong modeling light, and it's got a smaller battery, so it's not going to recycle as fast. Although, dudes, I have to show you some of these shots. I was shooting a soccer player, and I was doing like not the super high speed on the A7R3, but the mid speeds, which is like 5 frames a second. It was keeping up for the most part. I'd shoot 5 frames, and as long as I kept them at like 8th power or so, and I was using a MoThrow, a long throw reflector, to help me out because I pick up about 2 stops a gain on that. Outside, it was just like bam, 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 bam. I'm like, cool. Liked it. Yeah.
I like it.
So speaking of, we're talking about like some of this stuff. It just made me think. We're trying to hold the sky, doing high-speed sync or whatever. I don't know if you guys have run into this lately with all the Canadian wildfires and all the smoke in the air. Mm-hmm. You get out there at like 7 o'clock at night, and it's just hazy. There's no good sky. It's just almost like white. It's like almost like a white overcast. Yeah. So I did these soccer shots, and I all the exposure settings I had could have held good sky, but there's just nothing in the sky. So if you've got Photoshop, CS 2021, dudes, I did an IPS last night with this senior that I did the soccer shots for, and her dad was along for the shoot. And first stuff I showed in the stadium, he's looking at that going, that sky looks awesome. And he's like, wait a second, that sky was white that night. And I'm like, yes, it was. He's like, what did you do? And I just said, magic. Edit, sky replacement. I like this one. Boom. Done. Blew me away how good that tool is.
It is pretty amazing. Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet. I gotta try it.
Oh, seriously. I mean, it's as quick as I just stated. And I had railings on the top of the stadium. No halos. I'm like,
wow.
I had tree line.
Wow.
Holy crap.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. It's very, back in my day, we would have had to mask that out, and that would have taken a long time.
It's like Richard Sturvin told us in his class, there's sometimes you just got to pony up or cowboy up and brush it out from, just like in the old days. I'm like, but now if it's working that good,
yeah,
give it a try.
Yeah. A few times I've messed with it. It works out great. So what we're all shooting Sonys, and a lot of people are moving mirrorless. the Canon R5, R6 are really popular now. The Nikon Z7, Z7 II are popular now. One thing I commonly run into is people don't know how to set these up to work with off-camera flash or even some of the more advanced focusing systems. So I'll throw mine out first. For the Sony, I use eye autofocus almost exclusively, which means I'm on continuous focus, not single shot. I'm on continuous focus, and I'm also wide field. And I've got my eye autofocus. I have mine programmed to the center button in the middle of the wheel, just because that's where my thumb falls. So I can just go boop, and then finger on the shutter and click, and I got it. People put them other places. I've got C1 and C2 on top of my camera. One is to pick what type of focusing system I'm doing. Is it single shot or is it continuous? And the other one is is it wide? Is it center? Is it single focus point? And then that way I can just quickly pop back and forth. If I can't grab eye focus, if I got a lot of backlight, I can switch to one of these other things. So pre-program all those custom features in your cameras. But when it comes to flashes, here's the common thing. All these mirrorless come default as having silent shutter or electronic shutter. You cannot shoot flash with silent shutter or electronic shutter. You have to switch back to mechanical shutter. So you have to turn off your silent shutter. You have to turn off your electronic first curtain shutter or front curtain shutter, EFCS. Otherwise, none of your off-camera flash stuff will work. So I probably troubleshoot that 3 or 4 times a week. So that's why I want to put it in the podcast, so maybe more people learn this.
Good advice.
Yeah. And I have mine set up like I can scroll through like eye focus, tracking, and wide. So those are like my 3. I can just press a button. I even have another button set. I don't know which one it is. I have to do it when I'm shooting. My thumb just knows where to go. But between like left eye and right eye, because that was a firmware update, which is pretty slick, because sometimes it would lock in on the back eye, which you don't want. Yes. I don't want that eye in focus. I want the front eye in focus. So then I can just press a button and it'll switch between which eye it actually locks onto, which is pretty doggone cool.
No, is that's A9 though? I might not be on ours. Yeah.
Okay, on the here's the trick for the workaround for that though on the A7R3 is I have mine set on expandable spot lock on, okay, for the main, but then I have eye focus on my left thumb, so it is, what is it, C3 up there or whatever?
Sure.
So the top left of the camera, because that's where my left thumb is, so I just keep that pressed all the time when they're looking at me. But as you toggle the flexible spot inside, if you toggle over to the right side of the face and hit your eye focus, it'll find that. If you're off to the left, it'll find that eye.
Sure.
So if you're in really, really tight and your eye focus is in the wrong place, just toggle that bracket over a little bit and it'll find the front eye.
Good.
It's just
good advice.
Kind of a pain in the butt, but it's a workaround.
Or you do what I do. You're sitting there and it's tracking the wrong eye, and you just go, "Damn it, no!" Yeah. And then the senior's like,
"What?
No, I'm talking to my camera." And you take my thumb off it. Okay, grab. Nope. Okay, now I got it. Okay, good. Smile.
There you go. Yeah. Smile. Well, and another thing you want to disable, I'm not sure, because I made all these settings years ago, and I'm like, how did I do that again? But you want to probably disable your touch screen, because this just came up. I saw someone post this the other day too. Yep, your nose will touch the screen, and all of a sudden your focus will go over, because you can, unless you're not doing that. And I see a lot of people shoot where I can't get used to just shooting, mainly because my eyes are bad, which is I don't shoot with these readers, but like they're shooting with the camera away,
Yeah.
And that's probably fine. And you can adjust your focus point, but I still have to have the camera up, not only because I guess I'm old school, but it helps me really with composition, because everything else is closed off. It's like the real old days when they put the curtain over the head, I guess.
That's right.
But it helps.
And everything was upside down.
Don't say the real old days.
The real old days, yeah. But it helps me really focus on composition without having all these other things in the way. But if you have your display set up, your nose is going to be shooting your focus off and kind of mess you up. Or when you bring it up to your eye, or if you block that sensor, it's going to shut the display off, which messes some people off, which you can disable that as well. And something that happened to me when I first got my camera is I lost the eyepiece thing. It popped off somewhere, So I had an extra one from my Canon, and it fit on there. Oh, great. So I slid it on. Well, then my display wasn't working. I'm like, what the heck? My display's broken. Finally, I realized I popped it off and it worked. Well, it was covering up that sensor because the Canon one didn't have that little cutout. So I had to actually order a new little, and I lost another one recently too. I lose them all the time. I don't know. I'm walking through the woods and they pop off.
What the hell is this?
Yeah.
Through it.
Yeah. So here's one for you. So, okay, you customize all your different buttons to do different things, and I do too, and I should change it to more, but I want, whether in vertical or horizontal with a grip, to be able to have the function focus where my thumb is. That being said, I use the function button to bring up the menu of the hot topics, whatever, so like your ISO, your white balance and all that kind of stuff, so it pops up in there. Problem is,
your hot topics, like your death
some
metal
reason,
t-shirts. What?
yeah. But for some reason,
green hair
don't know
dye.
Why it got in there? No.
Vampire posters.
There's a function for bracketing, for auto bracketing.
Oh yeah, that's got to go.
That's got to go. I don't know how it got on there. I must have got on there by accident, but I must have bumped that thing like twice though in the last month.
Oh, no.
And also I get home, I'm like, how the heck
6
do
of
I
every
have
shot?
500 images from the scene here? It didn't feel like I did that much overboard. And it's 3 images of each shot. I'm going, son of a bean. And all of a sudden I'm going through and taking out. Oh my gosh, it's a pain. So don't do that.
Don't do that, yeah.
Which made me think, when Dan was talking about like the live view thing, and most of these mirrorless cameras have a setting where they will kind of pre-show you through the viewfinder what your exposures are going to look like. If you are, that's great if you're shooting ambient or if you're shooting LEDs. But if you're shooting flash, ain't so good, especially if you're trying to underexpose your background. Yeah. So I have that set up in my star menu. My main menu is like I can quickly go there and say, turn off the live view effects, whether I want that on or off. When I'm shooting flash, I want it off. When I'm shooting LED or ambient, I want it on, because I want to kind of preview what's going on.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Or with the A9, they can do like 30 frames a second, Carl, which I've done. It's like, had a senior that did parkour, so he's like, I'll run up the side of the building and do a flip. I'm like, I actually put together a video like of him doing it.
I was going to say, it's like a video.
Cool. But yeah, it's like, do that again. And he did like 5 times, and he had like 30 frames a second each time. It's like, whoa, okay. This is crazy.
It's crazy cool.
It's shortly after I got the Sonys, I second shot a wedding for our good friend Crystal. Yeah. And so I had the Sonys. I'm like, you know what? It's a wedding. I'm going to try the silent shutter for a little bit, because I wasn't shooting flash. We were outside. And I'm like, it's not working. I kept shooting. It's not working. I took like 60 shots. Because, we're used to like, the haptic response. You could hear click, click, click. I was like, I'm just...
Nothing. I got nothing.
I look at the card. It's like all this, like shots of the door, shots of the ground. It's actually doing something, yeah.
Well, speaking of that, doing fast captures. I know when you brought that, was it the QT 600?
Oh yeah. QT 600 too, yeah.
And we were photographing that dancer jumping and stuff or whatever, and I'm like, this is like cheating. I mean, with flexible spot, lock on, focus at like whatever, how many ever frames per second. It's just like, okay, let's pick this one.
It shortens, if you photograph dancers, it shortens the session
Oh
and
gosh.
the number of leaps they got to do by quite a bit, because if they're doing an arabesque and you're shooting 10 frames a second and they're all going to be evenly illuminated, it's like, okay, do a couple passes and have them look, I like my feet in this one. Done. They don't have to do 10 passes and you have to try to time it because you're always late.
Which
Of
is
course,
another
the dancer's
setting.
always going to say, "Oh, my little finger is off,"
Yeah.
Dancers.
Which is another setting which is nice to set up, is to rate images in camera, which I'll do. The only time I show the back of the camera is when I'm photographing dances. So yeah, if they're doing a Capizio or something, it's like shoot, okay, and I'll be like, your foot's not pointed, your back leg needs to be up more, do it again, and I'll show them. And once they pick their favorite, I rate it like, okay, that's 3-star.
5 stars.
So then what? Yeah. So when I get into when I download it, it's already tagged for
flagged.
me. Yeah.
That's
I have to look up how to do that in the R3. Can we do that in the
Yeah,
R3?
me too.
Well,
don't know.
I'm not
You
sure we
used to-
can. I don't.
You used to not be able to do it with the firmware update, at least for the A9. They did add that because that was one big beef. I would always do that with my Canon. Like, I'd
Same
have
here.
the same thing with headshots. All right, I'm not
Yes.
tethering
Yep.
to a computer and be like, look at the back of the camera. Click, that's your favorite. Boom. I always go 3-star because that gives me leeway to go up higher or lower. But you can do 5-star, whatever. whatever floats your boat with your stars. I mean, that's a whole
I wanna be able
workflow
to
thing. That'll be a
salute
whole
it,
different podcast. We'll talk
Well-
about workflow.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah, and I think I want to talk about that too, because something I tried with location headshots is last week. It worked out great, actually, last couple of weeks. Because when you go into companies now, a lot of them have mandates on social distancing and stuff. And I got a 10-foot HDMI cord, and I got the new Godox GM55 remote monitor, which is really made for video rigs. It's a 4K monitor, but I just hook it up to HDMI, put it on a separate stand, and I can go through. I can control what they're looking at from the camera position. They can be 6 feet away and looking at the monitor, not touching it. And do you like number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4? And pop through.
Oh, come on. You always
really
have
quickly
someone
that
going,
way.
that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Don't get your fingers off my screen.
That's right.
I hate that. You just slap him.
Remember Dave
Yep.
Jr. that time?
He'd hit you.
Slap your hand in that convention. Don't touch my screen.
Don't touch my screen. I've seen him do that to people, just like lay people, and they're like, "Holy crap, what'd you do?" Don't touch my screen.
Yeah.
Well, it's like sometimes in IPSs, people you have a 65 or 70-inch screen up,
They do
and
the
they
same
get up,
thing.
they get up like two inches away
they're,
from
like,
that and start
touching.
pointing at things. I'm like, what the are you doing? I
How
almost
often
dropped
do you
an
touch
F-bomb
your
there.
TV at home? Come on,
Right.
people.
It's like it's not just you're seeing every pixel at that point. You're not even when it's blurry. Yeah, because you're like 3 inches away. This is not how this works. It's not how any of this works.
This works.
Sit down.
not an
It's part of
iPad.
the reason right. Well, I've got a leather couch that I have clients sit on, and it kind of swallows them up a little bit, and I haven't replaced it because I want to make it hard for them to get out of the couch. And that's
idea.
one of the reasons. So they
Well-
don't get up and look at the screen.
Okay, side note, I'll wrap up with this, but I had a great idea once. It's like, okay, I'm going to give him a laser
Once.
pointer. So that once. I'm passing this tip on so you don't ever do it. Learn from my mistake. I gave him a laser pointer thinking this will be better because they don't have to get up. Oh, what a disaster. Fighting over laser pointer. Pointed here, pointed there, pointed there. And I get motion sickness, so I'm like, I'm ready to throw up. It's like, put that thing down. you're all over the place with it. It's like, which now it's fun because they make up little names. Do they do that for you too? It's like, oh, the Beyonce look. I want, like each image has a, like, the girl's hair is blowing.
Right.
So that's like the Beyonce image. We got to get the Beyonce image, or like, we have to get whatever. Everything
Smelling a
they kind
fart.
of. Yeah. Pooping in the woods. Yeah.
Pooping in the woods. Pooping their shoes.
Smelly dumpster. That's
When they were
another one. Because
squatting.
one place I go to, it's awesome, but it's the dumpster smell. So it's like we want to order that smelly dumpster picture.
The IPS I did last night, I took him to this place where it's like, seriously, I've actually been there before, and like a drug deal was going down. So I'm like, okay, we have to go someplace else. So I call it the murder alcove. So, it's great light in there, though. It's beautiful light.
Yeah.
The murder alcove, downtown Madison.
Yeah, just step
As long
over
as
this
it's got
body
light.
and this chalk line. You're good to go.
There's always broken glass there, though. That's the problem.
You can
Since they're
take the
wearing
chocolate
flip.
out in Photoshop. Don't worry about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just lay down in it. Well, laser pointer. There we go. See?
Oh, jeez.
And so I
There you
use
go.
it when I was like pointing out different products during IPS. But yeah, I never get to give it to the client.
No,
All right,
don't.
parting shots. Never give it to the
You
client.
did it.
Never give the laser
much
pointer
it.
to the client. That's my parting shot.
That's your parting shot.
It's
All
good-
right.
Good
Well,
advice.
we want to thank Red Curl Creative for sponsoring the Photo Happy Hour. They are copywriting services for photographers and wedding professionals alike. Kim from Red Curl Creative speaks your language. Keep listening for a special offer. I'm just reading the intro. I forgot to read the outro. So keep listening for that special offer. You're going to have to rewind everything to hear the special offer because we're not going to give it to you again. Okay,
So
we'll give
there.
it to you again. Save $97 using the code Happy Hour. All right. So we've got our drink of the week is the salted watermelon margarita. So here's your ingredient list. Kosher salt, a lime wheel, 3 ounces of salted watermelon juice or fresh watermelon juice, which is pretty easy to make. I guess you just squeeze it and all the water runs out. I don't know.
Cut up a watermelon and
Yeah,
you have
and,
it.
and just scrape off the cutting board. 1.5 ounces of white tequila, 3/4 ounce of fresh lime juice, I guess from the rest of the lime that you cut the wheel out of. So you put some salt on a plate, rub the rim of an old-fashioned or rocks glass with the lime wheel, save it for later, dip it in the salt, and then you combine the juice, the tequila, the lime juice, and a cocktail shaker. Fill the I always put the ice in first. Why do they say fill the shaker with ice? Put the ice in first. You want to pour it over the ice. Come
Absolutely.
Yeah.
on, amateurs here. Amateur hour. It's amateur hour here. You cover it. You shake vigorously until the outside of the shaker is very cold. Once your hand starts to freeze, you shake it another 10 seconds. That's my rule. About 20
Are you
seconds
still talking
total.
about drinks or something else?
Yes. We'll leave it there. You strain the cocktail through a strainer or a slotted spoon into your glass, garnish with reserved lime wheel, and you have yourself a salted watermelon juice margarita.
There you
That
go.
How many
sounds
lime
good.
wheels
Sounds
were in
refreshing.
that? I thought there was one, and now it seemed like
7.
there was 3. There's one.
Well,
for
okay,
the
so you
rim
have
of the
one lime
glass.
wheel. So you use the one lime wheel and you rub the rim of the glass, but then you set it aside because when you make the drink, you probably just cut a little slit and then drop your lime wheel on the
Okay,
edge.
okay.
Or float
That-
it in
So
there,
it's
either
a-
one.
Bicycle,
Yeah.
not a tricycle. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of lime juice in the cocktails I've been finding here. So
Yeah,
get
I've
some
been
lime.
noticing that.
I like lime. That's probably
Lime
why.
is good.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Can't go
that's all we
wrong
got
with
for this week,
lemon.
guys. Lemon. Till next week. Cheers to you guys.
Cheers.
Subscribe.
Cheers.
Subscribe. Hit subscribe.
Subscribe.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Give us a rating. Give us a positive rating on podcast
Yeah.
platforms as well.
Give us a 5-star rating. Otherwise, don't rate us. We'll leave it at that.
Again.
Subscribe now or I'll send you a gift. I'll give you a hint. It's in my diaper and it's not a toaster. I'd like to stay and chat, but Lois has pudding, and I need to go make more gifts for non-subscribers.